He slapped me in front of everyone. The sound didn't just rip through the music, it punctured the room like glass breaking underwater. The chandelier glittered, the crowd froze, and my cheek caught fire under his palm. For one suspended second, every face around us performed the same expression, shock slipping into fascination, as if humiliation were a show they had paid to see. He stared at me with eyes I used to call home, wild with the kind of pride that dresses up as righteousness when it's terrified of being wrong. I did not fall. My knees asked to, but I told them no. The violinist lowered his bow, the maitre d' coughed into a linen napkin, someone near the dessert table gasped too loudly and then smiled as if to apologize for having a conscience. I tasted copper and apology and the old fear I thought I had outgrown. He, Daniel Hart, the man who once promised to spend the rest of his life learning how to be gentle, kept his hand half lifted, as if the echo still belonged to him. The music stumbled back to life on the wrong beat. I lifted my chin, and the room watched me become a lesson. Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe, so you won't miss the upcoming stories. For the next video, what kind of story do you love the most? Tell me in the comments. I don't remember the walk from the ballroom to the street. I remember the feel of cool air on hot skin, how the revolving door spun like a verdict, how my reflection in the glass looked like a stranger who had borrowed my mouth to be brave. I remember the way heels on marble sound like broken applause. And I remember thinking, with clarity that felt like cruelty, no one stopped him. Not the colleagues who called me family, not the clients who sent me Christmas cards, not the friend who once promised to drag me out of any fire I didn't light. Back at my apartment, the mirror told the truth. A red imprint across my face, hand-shaped and impatient. I pressed a cold spoon to the heat and laughed the ridiculous laugh people laugh when a dam breaks in a place where no one will drown but you. The phone lit up. Are you okay? He didn't mean it. You know his temper. You pushed him. That last one from a number I deleted before the tears made it impossible. As if losing control were the same as losing innocence. As if I had signed a waiver that said, hurt me, the crowd will forgive you. His name was Daniel Hart. To a city that measured worth in headlines and launch parties, he was a comet, loud, bright, impossible to ignore. To me, he had once been a quiet morning, the click of a cup on a saucer, the pause in a sentence before kindness chooses the right word. We met when I was a junior designer who still believed fonts could heal messages. He was the creative director whose approval could turn ideas into budgets and interns into people. I learned his coffee order before I learned how quickly admiration becomes permission. In the beginning, he kept the world away from us like a doorman he overpaid. When we finally told the office, it felt like admitting we had been happy in a place built for performance. He said forever on a Tuesday, without flowers, without spectacle, in a conference room that smelled of markers and ambition. He slid a simple ring onto my finger and pressed his forehead to mine. This is the only drama I want, he said. I believed him because I wanted to. Jealousy arrived disguised as vigilance, and I mistook it for care. Text when you get home, turned into share your location so I don't worry, turned into who was the man by the elevator, turned into don't embarrass me in front of them. The first time he raised his voice, he apologized with the kind of focus he reserved for contracts. The second time, he was tired. The third time, I learned the choreography of flinching without moving. Still, I hung the dress for the gala where he said he would announce our engagement. Still, I designed the invitations for other people's celebrations. Still, I set the table for two. The night he slapped me, he caught me laughing with a client. The joke wasn't even good. I think it was about the dessert trying to be a sculpture. The client touched my elbow for half a second, a polite tether so I wouldn't drift mid-sentence. Daniel saw the touch, not the sentence. He crossed the room like a rumor at a party, swift and inevitable. Don't touch what's mine, he told a man who had only borrowed my attention. The man stepped back. I didn't. I'm not yours, I said softly, because sometimes the truth arrives late and still wants to be heard. Daniel's jaw became the kind that breaks itself to avoid bending. You are when you're with me. Then came the heat, the sound, the crowd becoming a mirror that reflects only the part of you that bleeds. Morning after, I wrote my resignation letter with hands that trembled but still spelled my name correctly. I packed the desk-potted plant that had pretended to thrive under overhead lighting, the mud that said designers do it in layers, the notebook where I kept every idea too hopeful for a pitch deck. I left my keycard on HR's desk with a note, "Thank you for the lessons." No one stopped me. The office air smelled like cologne and avoidance. He called once, then twice, then 10 times until the calls learned to ring only in my jaw. I changed my number and moved to a different part of the city that didn't know how to pronounce his last name. Grief is not a straight road, it is a city map laid over a forest. I learned the corners where memory waited. I learned which spoons made tea taste like the past. I learned that shame looks like you in your oldest sweatshirt, eating cereal at midnight, telling the wall you refuse to be a wall ever again. My friend Nor let me stay on her couch. She set an extra spoon without asking questions, turned the volume up when my breathing went thin, and said, "You can rebuild. I've seen you rebrand a company that sold anger into one that sold rain. So I rebranded us." She became my sister. I became a woman who applied for registration she'd been too frightened to imagine. Morgan Studio was born on a second-hand laptop with a trackpad that stuck on honesty. Money didn't arrive with trumpets. It arrived like a tired mail carrier on a third-floor walk-up, sweating, patient, invited. I did logos for bakeries that spelled croissant wrong, menus for cafes that served courage by the cup, websites for therapists who taught people that crying is a kind of cleaning. I slept less and liked it. Nor taped a paper to the fridge that read, "No returning to ghosts." Under it, she wrote in purple pen, especially those wearing expensive watches. 6 months later, I saw him again, not in person, but in ink. Daniel Hart resigns amid controversy. The article didn't say slap. It said incident. It did not say my name. It said a woman. There was video, shaky phone footage where you could hear the sound, see my face become a lesson again, watch the crowd do its math. I didn't send it to anyone. I didn't watch it twice. Karma arrived uninvited and sat down on the chair he had left empty, crossing its legs, unbothered by how late it was. He wrote letters. The first said, "Arya, I'm sorry." The second said, "I was drunk." The third said, "I don't know who I was that night." The fourth said, "Please let me apologize in person." I put them in a shoebox with the tag from the dress I wore to the gala and a sprig of dried eucalyptus from a bouquet someone sent me the next day with a card that read, "Believe women." I didn't burn the letters. I didn't read past the first line. Some days, forgiveness looks like not adding your own fuel to an old fire. A year into building the studio, an agency that had never answered my emails called me by name. We did a campaign that replaced billboards of abs with poems about survival. The tweets were kind. The client renewed. The studio grew from me to 3 to 5. Nor became operations manager and the guardian of my calendar. We learned to invoice without apologizing for time. Some mornings, I still reached across the table for a hand that didn't live here anymore. Habit is grief wearing perfume. The conference invitation arrived in year 2, keynote, the architecture of a comeback. I laughed at the title and then didn't. On stage, under lights that had witnessed other people's success, I spoke about typefaces as voices, how some fonts shout numbers and others hold your hand through a hard paragraph. I spoke about choosing clients who treat the world like a neighbor, not a market. I didn't speak about him. The applause felt like rain after long air. Backstage, after flowers and flashes and the relief that follows speaking the right truth, I felt a shadow change the temperature behind me. I didn't turn, I knew which weather this was. "Arya," he said. 3 years had cut his face into something humbler. The sharp suit hung like a memory on a smaller man. The eyes that once dared rooms to keep up now seemed afraid to be left alone with themselves. For a moment, my body replayed old choreography, the way fear steps back before you tell it to. I stood still. "What are you doing here?" My voice surprised me with how steady it sounded, like a bridge that had already held more than this. I came to say I'm sorry, he said. Not the kind you can write. The kind you have to carry to the door. You could have sent an email, I said. I'm better at being ignored in person, he answered, almost a smile, almost a plea. Security can walk you out, I said, because I needed him to know I had doors now that obeyed me. He looked down. I'll go, he said. I just needed to see that you survived me. I wanted to tell him I didn't survive him, I survived me, the version that believed love should be earned with small injuries. But I was tired and the night had other people to hold. So I nodded and left him in a corridor that smelled of hairspray and endings. After that, he did not stage a grand gesture. He did not send flowers shaped like apologies. He parked 2 streets away from my building 3 nights in a row, like a man practicing the art of not interrupting. Nor texted me his license plate with a skull emoji. Want me to summon thunder? I sent back a heart and a no. We watched a movie loud enough to drown out memory. In the pauses, I heard a car engine deciding whether to turn off. On the 4th night, the rain returned, the soft kind that believes in second chances for sidewalks. I walked up the stairs with groceries and the certainty that I would not be alone long enough to put them away. The hallway light flickered its usual apology. I set the bags down, hands steady, keys warm. Then came the knock. Not the arrogant percussion of a man who thinks doors are suggestions. 3 times, spaced like a person learning how to ask. I opened it to find him standing with rain in his hair and nothing in his hands. No ring, no bouquet, no press release. Just eyes that looked like someone had finally told them the truth. I don't want to come in, he said. I just want to say what I should have said before anyone ever learned my name. You said a lot of things, I replied. Most of them weren't true. I know, he said. I also know sorry has no interest in me anymore. But I'm learning how to mean it without expecting anything back. He took a breath, the kind that hurts. You didn't deserve what I did to you. I chose humiliation because it was faster than humility. I mistook possession for love. I built a life that rewarded me for being loud and then punished everyone else for not clapping. When they asked me why I did it, I told them I was drunk. It's worse than that. I was a coward. The building hummed around us. Someone's TV laugh track, a baby practicing the vowel called hunger, the radiator clicking like an old man counting seconds. In the past, his apology would have been a rope I grabbed with both hands. Tonight it was weather, I heard it, I respected it, I did not invite it to live here. Daniel, I said. Saying his name did not set off alarms. You're late. He nodded. I know. There were years when I would have opened this door wider even if it killed me, I continued. I am not living those years anymore. Rain found the threshold, drew a neat border. He didn't step over it. Can I ask you one thing? He said. Not for me. For the man I'm trying to become. I waited. Did you ever love me? He asked. Past me would have rushed. Present me remembered to breathe. I loved the person I thought you were when you were quiet, I said. You loved the person you wanted me to be when everyone was watching. He closed his eyes, receiving it like medicine that tastes like its ingredients. Thank you, he said, meaning it. Behind him, the stairs creaked, Mrs. Bloom from 3B on her way up with the mail, pausing to take stock, doing the neighborhood math. I smiled at her. She kept climbing. He looked at me as if to memorize what peace looks like when it's not available for purchase. Good night, Daniel, I said. Good night, Arya, he answered, and the way he said it made the air gentler. He took a step back, then another, as if leaving were a skill he was still learning. I closed the door softly, not a slam, not a sentence. Just a period. I leaned against the wood, listening to the hallway become only hallway again. Nor texted from the couch, need me to deploy snacks or threats? I texted back, both. But start with snacks. We ate on the floor, our knees touching, the way sisters do when the story requires witnesses. Outside, footsteps descended, rain insisted, and a man I once loved practiced walking away without taking anything that wasn't his. I looked down at my hands, steady, inkless, unbeholden, and realized part one of this story wasn't about whether he would beg. It was about whether I had built a life that wouldn't beg back. The groceries waited. The tea boiled. The city forgave itself for being loud. On my table, a single lily from a client's bouquet opened, stubborn and slow, as if to say, some things bloom after the slap, not before it. I believed it. I turned out the hall light, turned on the kitchen one, and let the night learn the new rule: I am the door. I didn't wait for his footsteps to come back. That night passed like an exam finally declared over, no grade, just quiet relief. Morning came without drama, stove clicking, water boiling, emails waiting, and something unexpected waiting at my doorstep. A thin brown envelope, tucked neatly beneath the mat, no name, no return address. Inside, not a flower. Not a ring. Just a folded sheet of paper and a small 3x4 photo from a cheap station photo booth. Daniel's eyes were swollen, his hair messy, the background an unflattering blue. On the back of the photo, his handwriting. I'm learning to take pictures of myself without the shine. The letter was short, 10 uneven lines. He wrote about washing dishes at a charity kitchen, about how dish soap burns unaccustomed hands, about an old man who told him that the truest apology is the one never performed for applause. The final line read, I don't deserve to walk in. But if one day you ever let me sit on your porch, I'll sit. If not, I'll sit farther away, just so you know I'm not hiding anymore. I folded the letter. There was a strange peace in realizing he'd stopped selling guilt and started working on it. Days didn't wait for permission to move on. The studio was alive, deadlines humming like bees, coffee cups breeding on every desk. Nor pinned a new note on the fridge. Drink water. Reject half the contracts. Accept all forms of joy. We laughed. Between client meetings, rumors trickled in about the man he used to be. He'd sold his apartment, moved somewhere smaller. He was teaching design for free at a local community center. He stopped doing interviews. No speeches, no redemption tour, just silence, the kind that finally knows its place. One late afternoon, I saw him again, in a grocery store aisle, reading the back of a yeast packet like it held scripture. We both froze. He nodded. I nodded. Two strangers who had once been each other's entire vocabulary. At the counter, his wallet wasn't in his pocket. The cashier panicked. I instinctively stepped forward, old habits of rescue, but he lifted his hand gently. It's fine, he said. He ran outside, returned a minute later with the missing wallet and a tired, unpracticed smile. He didn't need my help. That, strangely, felt like healing. A week later, an email arrived. Subject, invitation, internal workshop, accountability and dignity at work. Below it, Noor's handwritten note, they want you as a guest speaker. Paid, full rate. You in? I stared at the screen for a long time. The same building. The same walls that had watched me fall. Was I ready to stand there again, not as a victim, but as the voice that never spoke back? I agreed, but with 3 conditions. 1, I wouldn't say his name. 2, he wouldn't be in the room. 3, my payment would go directly to a domestic violence awareness fund. They accepted without hesitation. Guilt makes corporations efficient. That day, I stood in front of faces that once looked away, and I said, silence is a choice. Watching cruelty and doing nothing is still participation. I'm not here to reopen old wounds, I'm here to teach you how to stop creating new ones. The room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the air conditioner. A junior staff member raised her hand. What if we're scared to speak up, she asked. Be scared, I told her. Just don't be alone. Fear shared becomes strategy. Say this line, we need a break. Let's take this conversation private. That sentence can save dignity. When the session ended, HR handed me a receipt of donation. I left the stage without applause. Outside, night draped itself gently, no spotlight, no music, just the ordinary kind of peace that doesn't need witnesses. Across the street, I noticed a familiar figure standing under a flickering lamppost, head bowed beneath a cap. He didn't approach. Good. Some distances are holy. News reached me through Noor, who collected stories the way others collect coupons. He works part-time now, she said between bites of chips. Helps students build portfolios. Teaches ethics on Thursdays. He even mailed handwritten apologies to the old staff, real letters, with stamps. Some tore them up. Some wrote back. Some said, too late, but still sent a photo of their baby. Life had a sense of irony that never needed explanation. One evening, rain tapped my window softly. The kettle hissed, lemon bread baked in the oven. Then came a knock, 3 times, pause, 3 times again. The rhythm my body still remembered. When I opened the door, he stood there, rain-slicked, no umbrella, no performance. I brought something, he said, his voice steady but small. He handed me a paper bag. Inside, legal documents. From the lawyer who once defended me, he said. He's helping you now, the copyright case against that agency who stole your poem posters. He's doing it pro bono. He said it was his turn to do the right thing. I just delivered it. You could have emailed, I replied. He nodded. Yeah. But I wanted you to receive it from someone who finally learned how to knock. I took the bag. Thank you. He turned to leave, but I called after him. Daniel. He paused. Are you doing okay? He exhaled. I'm learning to be the kind of man someone can leave without guilt. I go to a recovery group every Tuesday. I teach at the center on Thursdays. I've turned down 3 jobs that wanted the version of me who thought power was charm. And, he hesitated, I wrote a letter to the man I was that night. I read it every time I feel sorry for myself. Can I hear one line? I asked. He nodded, pulling a folded page from his pocket. Line 1, he said quietly. Then read. Do not pass your shame forward. Stop it in your own body. That's your real work as a grown man. I looked at him, at the quiet conviction replacing the old noise. Keep doing that work, I said. He smiled, small, grateful, unarmed. Can I leave one more thing? He asked. He reached into his jacket and took out a ring box I recognized. I tensed. He opened it toward me. It was empty. I keep it that way, he said. To remind myself that some boxes are meant to stay unfilled, not waiting, just honoring what's gone. He closed it. I'll go now. Daniel, I called again. He stopped. Thank you for not turning this into a show. He nodded. Thank you for not slamming the door. He looked up at the drizzle. If you ever need me to stand guard, not as a guest, but as a wall, I'll be outside. I smiled. I'll call the neighbors. They're cheaper. He laughed, truly laughed, the first honest sound between us in years, and walked away. The stairwell swallowed his footsteps like punctuation. I shut the door softly, not as an ending, but as a healthy close. Weeks folded into each other. Life resumed its stubborn rhythm, burnt cookies, endless revisions, nor forcing a wool hat on my head like I was fragile porcelain. Small, ordinary things that now meant freedom. Then one afternoon, I saw a poster on a brick wall outside the community center. Workshop, Design Without Harm. Instructor, D. Hart. No title, no logo, no ego. Just time and place. I went. Sat in the back. Hoodie up, invisible. 10 students filled the tiny room, kids with cracked laptops and wide eyes. He stood at the front, simple clothes, no ring, no armor. If your design makes someone feel smaller, he said, it's not design, it's control. He asked them to rewrite their client briefs into moral compasses. He made them add a new slide to their decks titled, "Who is unseen here?" When a nervous girl named Risa fumbled through her presentation, he crouched beside her desk, voice gentle. "I still get nervous every Thursday," he said. "It just means you still care." Watching him teach, I felt my old anger loosen, not dissolve, not forgive too soon, but finally stop leading the way. Some justice is quiet, a man learns not to be the center, a woman lives without being defined by her pain. That was enough. When class ended, I stood for the first time without hiding. He saw me. Didn't flinch. Didn't approach. So I walked forward, 2 steps, no drama. "Good job," I said simply. "Thank you for coming," he replied, not asking why. "Do you still keep that photo booth picture?" I asked. He nodded. "In my wallet. To remind me that the world doesn't need filters." "You're not alone in this," I said. "Keep doing the work. Let time write the footnotes." He smiled, small and real. We stood there, awkward but honest, 2 people who had finally graduated from the wrong language. Outside, the sky was turning gold. Students left laughing, promising to come back next week. A mother pushed a stroller past us, a courier carried boxes inside. A cat failed to jump over a puddle and pretended it meant to. The city went on doing its job, holding all of us, the ones who got it right and the ones still learning. I went home, lighter. Noor had already set 2 mugs on the table, like always. "How was it?" she asked. "We're alive," I said. That was enough. Night fell quietly. I opened a new email draft addressed to myself. "You are not responsible for fixing anyone. You are responsible for protecting the parts of you that still believe in gentle things." I hit send. Before bed, I opened the door for a moment, not to check for danger, but to let new air in. The hallway light flickered its usual apology. No shadows. No ghosts. I closed the door, patting the wood once, a small prayer for every door I'd closed too soon or left open too long. When sleep finally came, it didn't sound like a slap. It sounded like water boiling for tea, rain against glass, and peace that didn't ask anyone for permission to stay.